All right, let's take a look at worksheet 6. Our objectives are to plot points, find the distance and midpoint from using the number line. We also want to find the distance between 2 points and finding the midpoint of a line segment using the formulas. Okay, so the distance between any 2 points, x1, y1, and x2, y2, is given by this formula here. We have d for distance equals the square root of the sum of the quantities squared, where the quantities are the difference in the x's and the difference in the y's. For the midpoint, we have the midpoint of a line segment is the point on the line, is the point on the segment that is equidistant from the endpoints. And we have a formula. The midpoint M of a line segment with ends A at x1, y1, that's point x1, y1, and B at point x2, y2. To find the midpoint using the formula, we add the x's and divide by 2. Then we add the y's and divide by 2. The value for the x's is in the x component, and the value for the y's is in the y component. And this is a point. Okay, so here we have number 1, and we're going to use this number line right here. Okay, so to find the value, so it says use the number line to calculate each item. So the distance from A to B is what we're being asked, is 1, 2, 3 spaces away. And the distance from A to D is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 spaces away. C to F is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 spaces away. The distance from B to E is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 spaces away. So you just count how many spaces it takes to get to the next dot when you're using a number line. And now we'll find the midpoint. So let's look at A to B. And then halfway from A and B coming in is right halfway between the -2 and the -3. So -2.5. And now we want to look at the midpoint for the AD stretch. So A to D is here. And then if we came in equidistant from the outside, then we'll come in 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. And it looks like we're here at the -1. Okay. double checking my answers there. And then I'll go to the next problem. In this problem, we're going to graph the 2 points, and then we're going to determine the distance from A to B. Okay, so we've got point at 1, 6, and a point at 9, 0. And then if we drew a line between them, trying to draw a straight line, we have what appears to be maybe a halfway point kind of there. Like the 4, 3, or the 5, 3. That one's the one kind of touching, huh? Okay, so go with the 5, 3. Nice. Okay, so if we double check with her formula, then 9 plus 1 divided by 2 is 5, and 0 plus 6 divided by 2 is 3, and that's our midpoint. So we found it graphically and through the formula. But double checking with the formula is how I knew to use the 5 and not the 4. Had I used the actual ruler and been a little more careful, right, then usually you can get it off the graph. When I did it for my own notes, if you can see it, oh, because it's blurry. No, you can't see it. But when I did it with my own notes, I had a straight line, and so I could actually see the 5, 3 very clearly. Okay, so let me clear that out for you. Let's look at number 3. Number 3, we're going to graph again. And maybe if my pen is thicker, I'll pick a different color too. So -7, -10, -7, -10. It's here. That's too big, huh? Oh, that's too far. -7, -10. Check, check. And then our other point, oh, I see what's, I had the erasing one on. Okay, so -7, -10. And our other point is -10, -6, 10, -6. And when we draw a straight line between them, the rest is on the tablet. Yay. Okay, so now we have a midpoint. I sort of start at the ends and trace my fingers in on it. You can't really see that though. But somewhere ish, maybe lower. Okay, but to double check and have an actual confident answer, then we can do the midpoint, which is definitely what I did. when I was doing my notes, right? The benefit of knowing two ways is so you can check yourself. So negative 17 divided by 2, negative 8.5, and negative 16 divided by 2 is negative 8. So it looks like our midpoint is negative 8.5, negative 8. So maybe slightly lower. I just have a big old fat little dot there. It's all that space. But you know, we got it there. And we can double check with the formula. And again, if you're on paper with a ruler, it's a little easier than writing vertically in the air. Okay, let's look at using the formula. So not trying to graph. And we already looked at the formula, but let me write it down for us. The midpoint is x1 plus x2 divided by 2, comma, y1 plus y2 divided by 2. Okay, so for these two problems here, we have 6 plus 9 over 2 for the x component, and then we have 5 plus 2 over 2 for the y component. That's 15 halves and 7 halves as a point. Okay, now on the I to j, we have 1 plus negative 2 over 2, and we have negative 4 plus negative 3 over 2, which gives us negative 1 over 2, comma, negative 7 over 2. Double check my answers, my previous work. Okay, now we have some distance formula problems. And then we'll be done. Okay, so we are looking at finding the distance between these 2 points, and we're going to use the distance formula. So the distance formula that we're going to use for 6, I'm going to give myself some white space here, is that D equals the difference in the x values squared plus the difference in the y values squared. And then you're going to square root that sum. Okay, so just in a plug and chug fashion, we've got the square root of 2 take away 3 quantity squared plus 7 take away negative 3 squared. This gives me negative 1 squared plus 10 squared, which is 1 plus 100 rooted, which is the square root of 101. And we just leave it that way. That's the exact distance, right? Okay, now we have number 7 to look at. And for 7, we first have to get the points out of the graph and then find the distance. Okay, So G is at -8. Somebody had the wrong tool out. So -8, comma 6, and H is 1, 8. So the difference in X plus the difference in Y square rooted is 9 squared plus 2 squared square rooted, which is the square root of 81, plus 4, which is the square root of 85. So the distance is the square root of 85. CK is at 7, 8. L is at 9, 0. And the distance formula is the difference in x's squared plus the difference in y squared. And then we'll square root that sum. So here we have the square root 2 squared plus -8 squared, which is the square root of 4 plus 64, giving us a final answer of the square root of 69. Okay, and that was the last problem on homework 6. I'll be back on Wednesday and we will start worksheet 7. I think I said homework 6 maybe, but it's worksheet 6. Okay, I'll see you Wednesday.